So the last three sections of part one of Teach Like a Pirate are Ask and Analyze, Transformation, and Enthusiasm. For the Ask and Analyze section, it started off with a quote that says, "Always the beautiful answer who asks a more beautiful question." So teachers ask a lot, how can I become more creative when I'm designing my lesson? And to a large extent, it is a process of consistently asking the right questions. And if you consistently ask questions that lead to creative and outside-the-box thinking, then you and your students will provide creative and outside-the-box answers. So the quality of your questions determine the quality of your answers. And it's our job as teachers to consistently attempt to create. And this takes a lot of practice and effort, just like any other skill. And it won't be easy, so it takes practice, work, effort, and commitment. So don't use the "I'm not creative" excuse as a teacher, because we all have a great potential to be creative. The real law of attraction is something, or sometimes is called that blinding flash of light, and sometimes that isn't just a myth. You will receive creative inspirations out of nowhere and at the oddest of times, but only if you tune your mind to the correct frequency by engaging in the creative process. So for this to work for you, you must create a vision of what you want and define the goals you want to achieve, and then you must start working for them. To design a system to capture ideas, since new ideas often come to you at the oddest of times, you'll want to be prepared to capture them. Don't say you'll write it down when you get home, because you won't and you'll forget. So create a system that works best for you to immediately capture and organize those great ideas. And the easier you make it, the more likely you'll capture those ideas more effectively. In the failure versus feedback part of this section, it started off with a quote that said, "Only those who risk going too far can possibly find out how far they can go." And that's from T.S. Eliot. If you haven't failed in the classroom, you aren't pushing the envelope far enough. You're playing it too safe. You're not trying to be as creative as you probably can be. So the key to failing without quitting is to shift your thoughts to believe there's no such thing as true failure, but only feedback. So use those feedbacks that you get from administrators or peers to improve your lessons and to learn and to evaluate from what you got, and without taking it too personally. So encourage yourself and others to push the edge and reach new heights by trying new things and learning from lessons that aren't the most successful. Only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly. That's from Robert F. Kennedy. The second part was transformation. It started off with a quote that said, "Provide an uncommon experience for your students and they will reward you with an uncommon effort and attitude." And that's from the author of this book, Dave Burgess. Students are hit with so much information in one day that to stand out in their minds, you must be remarkable. That means you are so exceptional and different that people talk about you, but in a good way. But your goal is to be effective for those students. The world's greatest GPS, which is your brain. So if you construct a vision of what you want your students to experience in your class, it serves as an ideal goal that you are shooting for. And it's important for you to have a realistic view of your current classroom and see where it falls short. That way you have room to work with what you have. That gap of where your classroom is and where you want them to be will create a tension inside you that will drive you to constantly work to close that gap. So positioning and reframing. The proper positioning is one of the key techniques needed to effectively transform your class. It is the process by which you create a compelling picture and understanding your audience to be able to differentiate your lesson. So you must stand out, and we are fighting to keep these students from tuning out altogether. So don't position your material as if it's awful tasting medicine. Position your content as if it's amazing. Find motivating reasons and why it's important to know for your students. So if you change your students' perceptions of the material, which that's called reframing, it involves providing a new context for the material that helps break down the negative associations that many students normally have. And if you connect it to the real world and let them know it is worth the investment and effort, then they will put that investment and effort in for you. Lastly is enthusiasm. It started off with a quote that said, "There is nothing more contagious on this planet than enthusiasm." Dave Burgess believes excellence as a teacher starts with having passion for what they do in life, and then it is driven home with your enthusiasm. So if nothing else, just be enthusiastic. Have that commitment to always being on, and you need to have that same intensity in your first class as you do in your last class of the day. And it is your job as a teacher to put yourself in a powerful state and do your best to rock the house or your classroom. So the 2 ways to light your fire, one is the importance of questioning. The second is how to control and change your state. So the first step to changing your state is the act as if principle. So unlike passion, you can fake your enthusiasm. It's easy. You just act like you're enthusiastic. But the thing is that when you do this, and the more you start really feeling and becoming enthusiastic. So that includes your posture, your breathing, your tone of voice, and your movement. And then the second way to change your state is to change what you're focused on. If you make a conscious decision to focus on what empowers you and not what brings you and your students down, that would be great. And lastly, spread the virus. By lighting yourself on fire with enthusiasm, you can become a beacon of bliss among a class that is full of boredom. And our mission as a teacher is to teach in such a way that who we are as human beings has a more powerful and lasting effect on students than what we can see.